What's going on, everybody? This is Afro Think Tank. Black man says the black community does not value intellectualism, doesn't value intelligence. And I'm going to have to agree to a certain extent. You see, the popular culture of black culture doesn't value education or intelligence. They don't flex education or intelligence. When a black man is educated or intelligent, or when a black woman is educated or intelligent, popular commercialized black society deems them as geeks, as weirdos, as squares, are not a part of the main line, not canon. But in fact, the greater portion of African American community, the greater portion of African culture is actually that, intellectualism, under fire, intellectualism, under slavery. Intellectualism is what got us to the position that we find ourselves in, that got everybody in a kerfuffle about our progress and our ongoing progress. Black content creators who have intelligent content, who has valuable content that improves the intelligence of their members of the black community, those channels don't get promoted. They don't get elevated, because they can be deemed boring for those people in the black community that just want to be stimulated by people telling jokes. That's why we got groups like FBA. Groups, ethno-nationalist groups, xenophobic, hateful, lineage-based groups like FBA, because Tariq Nasheed makes them feel a kind of way. He doesn't have to use logic, common sense, facts, truth. He don't have to do anything. He can switch his grift anytime he wants, because he makes people feel a certain way, because people are intellectually lazy and they don't want to learn. They don't want to process. They don't want to use their brains to process data. Because when you work your brain, that's working a muscle. And a lot of black folks don't want to work their muscle. They just want to go the easy route, and they want to vibe off feelings. They want to vibe off joke cracking. We actually deify and we give people platforms who make music that destroys our community, and then we hold them to a higher pedestal, to where when they say something, we take it at face value. Imagine this: a tool of white supremacy who makes music creating poison to destroy your community, telling your kids to go outside and be thugs, be hyper dangerous, and value materialistic white produced Chinese manufactured goods for overpriced dollars. Right? These the same ones that after they make their money telling you that it's cool to sell drugs. It's real manly to beat up on your brothers and sisters. It's real manly to disrespect your woman on a daily basis and think that's something cool and entertaining, because the white man loves when a black man calls a black woman a bitch. And they can become millionaires, and after that, woe is me, now that I'm in the burbs, I'm going to tell black people stop talking about slavery and stop harping on the dysfunction of the black community based off slavery that was not that long ago. As soon as these rich fools get rich, all of a sudden they forget where they come from, and they forget the establishments that hold black people down. Talking about lift yourself up from your bootstraps. How you going to tell somebody who ain't got no goddamn boots to lift himself up from his goddamn bootstraps? The motherfucker ain't got no goddamn boots because you stole them. You telling him to lift himself up from his bootstraps. I swear, people get a little bit of money, they get in certain tax brackets, they forget where the hell they come from. You know what I'm saying? But either way, we are lacking in the flexing of our intellectual capability. Anytime we use our intellectual capabilities, right, the world, our enemies, get scared. Look at Neil deGrasse Tyson. He is a smart, intelligent representative of the black community. He's the guy who we should be hyping up. He should be rolling around in Rolls Royces, living in big giant mansions, because we financing intellectuals like him, who goes on every podcast and sons every individual who dares to use white racism and science to try to downgrade our accomplishments on this planet and in the history. Neil deGrasse Tyson, more pro-black than any of these thug Negroes out here who wear oversized fitted hats and big ass shirts and can't let go of the 90s. 50, 60 years old, can't let go of when they were 17, 18 years old. Still looking like children, put Beijing in their hair because they just scared of their age. Changing their name because they're ashamed of who they is. Get out of here, man. We got to start respecting intelligence, flexing your intellectualism. That's why I be calling people stupid. I know they be like, why you got to be so harsh and call people stupid? Because they stupid. That's why I'm saying it's stupid. We got to start shaming these idiots who walk around with their chest out, like they big balls, but they dumb as rocks, representing us on the internet. No, us intelligent black people need to come out here and say, hey, you see that black person over there? He's stupid. Just like that, plain. Call a spade a spade. You stupid, I'm smart. And don't be ashamed to call yourself smart. That needs to be a flex. All my smart black people need to come out and be smart. Flex that shit. Flex your intelligence on these dumbasses. That's what we got to do. Make that shit cool. If we can make degenerate behavior cool, if we can make calling our females bitches cool, right? If we could be derogatory towards our black woman and celebrating it with other men of other races that we are being derogatory to our black women, then we can make intelligence cool. If we can make killing each other on the street cool, if we can make starting unnecessary wars on blocks with cousins fighting each other over colors and streets that don't belong to them, we can make intellectualism cool. Because that is what's cool at the end of the day. Anyway, you guys tell me what you think about this in the comment section. It's Afro Think Tank. Learn something, teach something. I'm out.
The black community doesn't value intelligence because intelligence goes against the narratives that are often set. A lot of our community operates off of feelings, right? It's about narratives, right? So if you go against a narrative, you can substantiate it, you can articulate it, right? Strong arguments. But if those arguments are going against the dominant narrative, you're the issue. That is how the community operates, right? It's not a community that values intelligence, because if they value intelligence, then it creates a sense of a hierarchy. And the community only has an issue with hierarchy when it's not being applied to black men. Right. So if it's going to place black men in this position of superiority, right, which I mean, some people be smarter, lesser, it goes against the narrative that the community needs. Black men are brutes. Black men are generally stupid. And if you find a smart black man, it's very rare. That's the narrative that has to exist, right? That's the reason why dating discourse, they'll say, black women are just so college educated and they just have to date down. Now, if you're actually gone to college and been in universities, right, let's say you're not pandering and you're engaging in critical thinking, what does completing a bachelor's degree, how does that translate over to romantic skills, right? Like, even just using that, no one's entitled to anyone. So simply saying that you're college educated, it's like, yeah, you took some tests, you studied here, but does that mean that you're going to be somebody who has emotional intelligence in terms of the context of a relationship? No, it doesn't. Does that mean you have sexual discipline? No. Does that even mean that you are a good person? No. Does that mean that you're even find desirable? No, it simply means that you have a degree. Now, as somebody who's college educated, my wife is college educated. I'm not just with my wife because she's college educated. A variety of other factors, right? Chemistry, all that is all encompassing. And again, people have to have the intention to want actual relationships, right? Like my wife, that she was mocked by, friends at the time in college because they accused her of like, hey, you just are looking to be in a relationship, right? And their positioning was you're supposed to be making these experiences, right? And again, a lot of it, a very childish mentality, right? So it's with this popular person, with this, right? So the intention going into college for many of them isn't actually even looking for husbands. Right, like, again, who would thought? Most of us are coming from single mother households, and a culture, sexual liberation is often telling them to engage in a lot of sex. When you actually break that down, that's never beneficial for anybody, because that time period in which you can be developing a relationship, you're juggling multiple people, right? And again, the amount of times you had sex does not mean that you're going to be ready to be a spouse, right? It's the community does not, let's say, actually understand intelligence, in my opinion, right? It seems more so about aesthetics and what things look like, right? That's why I think of discourse on this app about college. It's often used not as a way to encourage black men, like people just to increase. It's usually in this gender war positioning that usually reinforces black men being stupid, right? It's not really like translating over to anything, like these conversations, because again, we're both ranked third when compared to our sexes, but again, these conversations were never meant to showcase positivity. It's like anti-black men. This is why so many sisters spent years, right? Some still say it, that they're the most college educated demographic, and that has never been the case. Right now, you know the reason why they were able to go so long saying that is because they interact primarily with one demographic. And it's the one demographic that they don't believe they have to value their opinion. So your facts is going to triumph the narrative and feelings. So there's been plenty of black men who've said black women are not the most college educated demographic. Now, why do you think black women went so long saying that they were? Because they don't have to respect black men. That is the dominant culture. Right? That's why if you're an intelligent black man, you make arguments. They're not going to address your arguments because they don't believe that you're intelligent enough to actually, engage in good faith. The response is to engage in ad hominems, insult. Right? This is how the community operates. And you'll get this from black women as well as the mentally castrated black men. Right? They lack so much testicular fortitude. That had, again, one man, he had this large following. Like, he's supposed to be one of those, like, hey, we're this activist, we helping the people, educating. I made this point. He had the positioning against a black content creator, right? And it was about, like, hey, I got to showcase of protecting women, all this, and I didn't believe it was actually, like, genuine. But I was like, okay. The other person was olive branch. And if you actually care about, unity, working together, if somebody's attempting, right? If they're actually in good faith or trying to do this, then you go for it. And I said, okay, I try to, hey, let me just, two black men provide some insight. Again, he was worried of a politician who engaged in a genocide and believed that was valid, etc. Cool. If you can excuse a politician doing that, then you can excuse any random black man on TikTok saying something that you simply do not agree with. Right? And if that provides you an opportunity to grow, learn, he might change, he might not be, but that's good steps going forward. And the response was, this is just some type of nerd who wants some attention, who wants to go viral, who wants to, and it's like, these people are emotionally unstable. And then their response is still this very, like, childish, it's like grade school, you just didn't get women, you're just this nerd, and it's like, okay, I'm just this nerd. And these are people in their 30s, again, college educated, right? Like, look, remember, college educated, and this is how many of them discuss topics, right? When they're pushed, right? Like, so a lot of these people love talking down on everybody. That's, when it comes to black men provides the perfect underclass for most of them. Because a lot of these black men, they're not going to talk like that to black women, right? Most of them are scared. That's why they'll accept lies and narratives because, your black woman said so. But then if you are a black man and you are actually more intelligent, educated than them, and it's going against the narratives that, because they like testicles to, like, say that's wrong, if you say it, then it's more so like it makes them feel insecure. Because if they're an intelligent person, they're aware of it. It's like, yeah, I can't actually refute that. Right, so let me insult. Right, yeah, like a lot of our community, like Arrested Development. That's what I accept. A lot of it's Arrested Development. A lot of it's based off of feelings, very hedonistic, right? So, that isn't a community that is going to, let's say, develop healthy, competent black men, right? Like, that's just the default. And the thing is, those in positioning to influence and, change it, they don't care, right? Because, if they have to hold a group accountable, a group that births the children that are primarily the ones raising, instilling the culture, the ones that generally are discussed and communicated to with regards to black culture, if you dare argue that they might need to change certain behaviors and certain positioning, they can't do that. Like the community, again, listen to these people. If they can't even be honest to black women, what do I think they're going to do for anything? Like in terms of, like, actual advocacy for anyone. Like, it's like you can't even be honest within your own community.
Yep, time to go. That motherfucker coming over here. Woo, shit. Hey, Carlo, bitch, look behind you. Woo, shit, motherfucker.
Preach again. Boycott diamonds and gold. Free Sudan. Boycott diamonds and gold. We most definitely cannot forget about the people of Sudan.
Thanks for watching Afro Think Tank. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And follow me on Substack and Patreon for more content. Remember, it's Pan-Africanism or nothing.